Ladies and gentlemen, greetings and welcome. The time has finally come for me to attempt and transfer what I know about Carnage and combat into a video form. Or in other words, with the changes coming to the spec in update 2.10, I'm finally making my guide for what used to be the most fun and most random spec in the whole game. Whether it will be 100% accurate or you will fill in some gaps and possibly wrong statements, we will see when it ends. The video will be structured as such. Changes coming to 2.10 based on PTS as of 20th of August. Gear recommendations for PvP and PvE. Builds for PvP and PvE. Skill priorities and combat phases. And last, tips to boost our performance playing combat and Carnage. I will be using the Marauder skill names, but we know that it's all mirrored for the Sentinel, so I hope it won't be a problem. Changes. The 2.10 update brought two major changes into the spec. It removes the RNG and introduces flat procs and cooldowns for the most important skills. Execute now triggers 100% of the time when a Tauro form deals damage. Slaughter now triggers 100% of the time when a Tauro form deals damage. This effect can still only be happening every 20 seconds. Only two, but very major and very important changes. Gear. The stats priority remains the same for both PvE and PvP, or at least the way I prefer them. No crit rating for mods at all, more on that later. Stacking first accuracy to 100%, and after that everything goes to strength and surge. Whether you prefer strength or power augments, I will leave that to each player's preferences. The difference is proven to be minimal. I do not wish to resume this old argument. It's as old as the game itself. The reason I choose to use no crit is the fact that most of the damage comes from Force Scream, and now in 2.10 it's even harder to not crit with this skill. The proc is stable now, and I recommend boosting the magnitude of those secure crits rather than building additional 2 or 3% for other skills to chance a crit. Build. My two main PvE builds are similar to each other. I change a couple of skills around depending on what bosses I'm facing, as well as the group balance we have for the encounter. My favorite is the well-known 536-5, where boosting the AoE for trash and AoE heavy boss fights is the key. The second one I like to call Brontes build, because this is where I use it mainly. Difference is I swap Decimate for Unbound to give my team a little speed boost during the lightning transition. For PvP, I like to go with 541-0. I mostly play solo queue war zones, and this build helps me bug and annoy the healers, who are my main target most of the time. The build is constructed around dealing maximum single target damage while maintaining all possible tools and utilities the spec has to offer. Skills and priorities in combat. This part is mainly aimed at PvE, because we all know in PvP nothing is scripted and you can never predict what the opponent will do, you just have to react. Here comes the hardest to explain in a video part. When I started mastering Carnage, I used the wildly popular guide written by Ewok from Obviously. Many of the teachings and tips are still valid and even mandatory now with the flatness of the spec in 2.10. We have two phases during combat. Gore phases, where we spend rage and deal maximum damage, and build phases, where we have just exhausted our two gores and need to rebuild the rage before the next gore is open and ready. The spec evolves around precise timings and properly fitting abilities inside the 4.5 seconds gore durations. In gore phase, the priorities for skills go in this order. Ravage, to be used only during gore, never outside. Force Scream, easier to use than never due to the changes of execute procs. Vicious Throw, in and out of gore after it procs. Dual Saber Throw, to be used as soon as it's out of cooldown in any phase. Massacre, best and main filler damage ability. In the build-up phase, we use everything else available, even Force Scream if timing is right and it has proc from execute. Battering Assault is the ability to build rage. It has to be used on cooldown, but preferably not during gore windows. Assault is the very basic skill. Don't be afraid to use it to build up rage whenever that's necessary. Massacre, to be used for proccing execute and prepare for the next gore. Rupture, the ideal filler, to be used when execute procs and preferably right before gore open. Some of the most popular combos during gore are Gore, Force Scream, Massacre, and another Massacre. Gore, Ravage, Force Scream. These two combos are the most basic and suggested ones for first and second gore windows. Because when you start with Force Scream in the first window, you will have it ready and buffed by execute before the end of the second one. There are a number of other options depending on random moments of the fight and cooldowns of abilities available, mob spawned and so on. I have not yet perfected my rotations on the dummy for an amazing parse, but to me this is not the main priority because high parse on dummies don't kill bosses. I prefer to focus on boss mechanics and combine them with the knowledge I have for the specs and classes I play. Here are two good examples of where Carnage really shines and where the spec is most appropriate. On the left side you can see my guide for Drax's Nightmare mod 8%. On the right side is my guide for Bronte's Nightmare 8%. Tips: start gore with Force Scream and use Ravage in the second proc gore window, followed by another execute Force Scream. Use dual saber throw on cooldown, it replaces Assault and Massacre. Do not try to fit Berserk into a specific phase, it cannot happen always due to its cooldown. Use Berserk on cooldown to maximize the APM and number of abilities used in the fight. Never ever use Ravage outside of gore. Use Vicious Saber Throw proc out of gore only if its cooldown is about to finish and you are about to lose it. Do not be afraid to spam Assault if needed outside gore. Try to never use rage building abilities during gore, it's a waste of effective DPS. Normal APM versus one target uninterrupted combat is about 50. Maybe 50.5 or even 51 if you're lucky, and if you execute absolutely everything perfectly. Before you start gore, make sure you have at least 7 or 8 rage points, or better yet a full bar. If your latency is low enough, you can cut the Ravage 0.30 seconds before his channel finishes. That saves you time and boosts the DPS output. If you use Berserk with gore, you can fit one extra ability in the 4.5 second window. But don't save Berserk for that only, use it on cooldown. The list can go on forever, because the spec is complex enough even after the RNG is gone. Some consider the new Carnage boring and dumb, but it's now fitting much better all the other changes they've made to the other specs, so it was to be expected. In this link you can see my first video about Carnage in 2.10. It's almost 2 hours long and it's raw footage recorded from my livestream session. This was my attempt to fit as much as I know about Carnage into one relatively short video guide. I'm sure many other great players can fill in some gaps and perhaps maybe share knowledge I have not acquired yet, some secret tips or tricks that can help us be even more productive as the most unpleasant row in any MMO game, a melee DPS class. Thank you very much for watching my guide. I hope it helped you at least a little bit. See you in my next Star Wars: The Old Republic video. Bye bye.